Yo, 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 welcome to NS9 Live. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, boy, we got a lot of hosts. We got our host, as always, Tyler. We got our three new hosts. So I want to welcome everybody to the new North Shore 9, I guess put it that way. We had our NS9 Idol. We selected our three winners. So with us today, we have Connor.
Yeah, hello.
We have Doug. And we have Neil.
Hello.
So what's up, fellas?
What's up?
Glad to be here.
What are we talking about?
Don't have to lie.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not.
Jim's
I'm
not.
happier. I'm happier that Jim isn't here.
No, well, Jim is here. He's just holding a gun to my head off camera. You can't see him.
That sounds like Jim.
Sounds exactly like him. No, Jim would just pay him off. He's rich.
Right. With iPhones.
That's true. We've been over this. Yep.
Yeah, but I guess a long story short, we found out last week that Jim wasn't going to be present today. So Tyler and I were like, well, it's just going to be you and I. Of course, it's the Pirates off season, so what's there really to talk about? So, like, what a perfect show. What perfect timing. We selected our three new co-hosts. Let's just have a big show. It's the five of us, right? It's a party of five without Jim. So it's going to be a great show, guys.
Happy to have all three of you. Don't all talk at once. It's real.
Let's get rolling.
Me and DiNardo talked about this. We're like,
Well,
this
I
chemistry
have
is gonna
to
be
measure my
wild.
words because if I don't measure my words, I quickly go into an obscenity laced rant about the Pirates. So,
What do you think you're on the show for?
is that why I was chosen?
You think we hired you for your good looks?
Isn't that on brand?
I
You're
guess
the
it kind of
exclusive
is.
hot
If you
takes guy.
follow my Twitter at all, that is kind of on brand.
Connor's
Yeah.
like minus 200 odds to get us canceled.
Yeah, kind of. Am I allowed to say what I said earlier about Ben Sherrington in the group text?
Probably not.
Let's
Yeah.
maybe ease our way into those statements.
So before Connor takes us like down some really weird rabbit hole, hey, Doug, you haven't spoken yet. How you doing?
I'm excellent and looking forward to the season. I can't believe I'm looking forward to the season, but I do it every year. Come January, February, I'm like, oh, if 11 things go right, we have a chance for 500. You know. And then, of course, none of those things go right. So.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. You know, I put out there on Twitter, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I'm ready for the season. Just let me bring on the misery. It's at a point, again, like the winter meetings are done. The offseason is dragging on out. You're just at a point where it's like, all right, let's just get baseball going because this is going to be such a drag until pitchers and catchers report and you start getting some video. You know, when you start seeing Mitch Keller throw just, you know, to a random catcher, you get all hyped up for no reason. And everyone's talking about, okay, this is the year Mitch Keller is going to turn into a Cy Young candidate. I'm ready for that time. You know, I'm ready for the Polanco's in his best shape of his career point of time, you know.
And
That's
typically this time of year, we're actually about to make our first signing. So, you know, we've all of the good players are gone and we're picking up the Marisniks and Van Meters. You know, we've never made the signings in November and December before. It's stunning to me now that it seems like the roster is pretty much set.
We changed pace. Instead, we chose all the bad players early.
Yeah, we got
it's trend setting.
And then of course there's the, you know, Brian Reynolds cloud hanging over, you know, ruining my peaceful off season at this point.
Yeah, I don't want to go too negative yet, but one positive I think we can all agree to look forward to is we actually get a full season of O'Neal Cruz, hopefully.
Yeah.
We haven't had a full season of a legit player like this in a long time, probably since McCutcheon's second year. And I don't even know if it was this level. Like maybe throw
Before
Pedro
you-
Alvarez in there, and that was just a disaster.
Just stop you right now, because what this offseason is filled with, define the legit player, because there is a Brian Reynolds on this team that you've seen for full season.
A legit prospect that we got a taste of, and now we get that first full season of him. Not the let's wait till June.
That's fair.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Envy,
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
Envy right now. We're not waiting till they call him up. He's here.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable saying like he's like the best prospect, like talent wise, since Bonds. Like I think his ceiling is that high. Will he get there? Probably not. But I think even like 65% of what Cruz can be is like incredible stuff that like makes me feel things inside I haven't felt.
Yeah.
18.
Oh, this is the stuff that I love. Spring training vibes are like actually immaculate. Like spring training vibes smoke the preseason of any other sport by like miles.
Oh yeah,
It's not even close.
All right, football's terrible. Basketball's terrible. I don't pay as much attention to hockey, but yeah, you have no interest with baseball spring training. There is so much that can happen, and you know, it's just hope and optimism really do.
And I'm certainly more knowledgeable about baseball than I am other sports, but it feels like you find more out in baseball spring training than you do with other sports also. But that could also just me being a Pirates fan, and the worse your team is, the more you find out in spring training, most likely.
Absolutely. We figured out that Kevin Newman could hit.
Right.
Yeah. He had like 500 in spring training.
You get fooled.
No, he hit
spring training
700. I think he hit
like
600, like 700.
Might have been 600.
Yeah, no, the Steelers and Penguins just don't do it for me the same way that suffering through watching the Pirates does. I don't know what sicko
Masochism
they have going on for me, but yeah, it's not the same. So I'm excited to get going.
Well, in
And
football,
I kind of have a
nobody
feeling
plays.
too. It's like it's a month long basically. It's all in the day. You know, it's more fun. Like I guess as opposed to like watching spring training, but preseason and football. It just seems like chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Spring training doesn't seem as much chaos in that sense. But I think the other thing too is baseball is I mean, there's a reason why there's Baseball America and these prospect sites. It's very prospect driven. There's excitement, there's hope in that sense. I think more than like in the NBA or NFL. Like, yeah, you want to see Kenny Pickett in the preseason, but probably not in the same way or reasons you want to see Andy Rodriguez in spring training this year.
Right. I'd agree
That
with
makes
that.
sense.
Well, yeah, you know Kenny Pickett's going to be on the roster day one, right?
Yeah.
You know that. I mean, you knew he wasn't
That's
going to start the first couple games. So there's no mystery involved in what's going to. Now, how good he's going to be, sure, but and we all know you can't tell that from a preseason football game because he's not playing with the starters, and you know they're not running any play. You know they're running vanilla play.
Another good point,
right? Where in baseball, if a guy can hit, you know that pitcher's trying to get him out. He's not half-assing it. He is trying to get Cruz out, Eddie Rodriguez, you know, and the batter's trying to get a hit. So spring training, again, it can fool you, but it's still much more telling, and you get a better glimpse
real.
of what guys can do.
Yeah.
and it's spring. Like on top of everything else, it's spring. Like winter's passing us. You're finally seeing sun and nice weather. You know, it's that's why there's so much optimism, right? Life is beginning.
And like just going to a spring training game is so much fun. Like I haven't been since I was like a little kid, but like it's the vibes are immaculate. Like it's chill. Get to watch players. You know, like I remember watching Jack Wilson hit a home run in spring training. It made my absolute day. Like so, yeah, spring training's great.
I saw a Pirates Cleveland game in Nashville. You know, the last preseason game before the season started. Dave Clark hit a home run. Pirates won 1-0. It was like it was Easter Sunday. It was like the best day of my life. It was fantastic.
Define why you are a Pirates fan. Well, the best day of my life was a 1-0 win in spring training.
For me, it's easy to be a Pirates fan. I've got, you know, a treasure trove of great memories. I saw Rennie Stennett go 7 for 7 against the Cubs. You know, I don't know why you guys are. I don't understand why you guys are Pirates fans. It's been nothing but misery. I'm only
happy when I'm miserable.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
You'll have to ask.
You're going to be happy for years to come, my friend.
You'll have to ask 4-year-old me. I could have been a Red Sox fan like my dad, but my 4-year-old self was like, "No, Neil, you like baseball and you like Pirates, so you're going to be a Pirates fan." And here I am 20 years later.
I was born into it.
Yeah, I was an idiot. You guys were born into it. I chose this lifestyle.
Where's
Yeah,
that
I mean,
nerd Jim? We killed him.
no, I was born into it, but it was easy. It was easy. I was born into Clemente and Stargell and Parker, and it was easy. When I was 13, we moved to Tennessee. It was easy to stay a Pirates fan and a Steelers fan, right? They were the best teams in the leagues. They were, why would I move to become a Braves fan down in Tennessee? The Braves sucked back then. There
Well,
obviously there was
weird.
no football.
My dad was a Pirates fan. The entire family were Pirates fans, but they were Baltimore Colts fans.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I wasn't really as much of a Steelers fan for a really long time because it wasn't like a football household. Because it was like after the Colts move, my dad like swore off the NFL for like 30 years.
For me, like I said, I moved when I was 13. It just became part of I moved to Tennessee and it became part of my identity. My first day at the new school, I wore a Roy Jarrella t-shirt. A kicker. That's how I was hardcore. No Joe Green for me, no Vince Swan. I wore the Roy Jarrella t-shirt.
So am I officially the one closest to Pittsburgh here on this podcast?
I think so.
So we just had a competition to add more Pirates podcasters, and nobody lives in Pennsylvania.
I'm in Alabama.
I mean, I basically live in Pennsylvania. I'm
I
like
live closer to
12.
Pennsylvania. I live closer than you. You
Yeah,
live like in BFE in Maryland.
Merlin.
I'm not in like the Maryland part of Maryland. I'm out in the Panhandle. It's
You're like in like
basically
the West Virginia part of Maryland. It's like it's pretty.
Yeah, if you
it's
go,
pretty,
like-
it's pretty country.
if you go
They're
like
basically
12
neighbors
miles
of Bob
south,
Nutting, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Not really, but if you go like 12 miles south, you're in West Virginia. You don't have to go that much further north to be in Pennsylvania. It's like the thinnest part of the state.
Fair enough. But I mean,
I'm pretty sure
technically speaking, though, there's not one person here that lives inside of Pennsylvania.
I'm closer to
No.
Pittsburgh than I am DC.
When that group chat started, it was just a bunch of area codes that I have never seen before in my life.
Yeah, same. Well, except
Including
for
another one that
the
I
guy
added,
who's
apparently.
furthest away from Pittsburgh is the only guy with the Pittsburgh area code.
Right. I've kept that thing for what? I've had that number for like 18 years now. Anyways,
Okay. Well.
we won't talk
I forgot
about
that you added the wrong number.
No, he was adding
Yeah.
emails. I don't know how you add emails to a group text, but
Let's move forward.
He added emails to a group
We don't need
text,
to talk
and he
about
added
this.
Connor at the wrong number. Bragged that Connor had an iPhone, and Connor doesn't have an iPhone.
Funny story for all you guys here that don't know this. I told this just the other day though. I added the wrong Doug. That I had like a real life hangover moment. That's not our Doug. And I found out because that other Doug talked to me on Monday. It was like, I think you added me to a group chat this weekend. I was like, oh
I knew
boy.
you guys were talking behind my back. Damn it!
So yeah, we had a fun gathering of ourselves to start out the group chat. But anyways, we're where we
Thank
need
God
to be.
I was around to start the group chat.
I was pissed. I left. I stopped and I just took a shower. It's like, you handle it then, Tyler. And I just put my phone down and walked away.
I think at one point I literally was like, DiNardo, it cannot be this hard.
I thought Jim was the boomer of the group. I didn't think it'd be DiNardo. It was a sad sight to see.
It was pretty embarrassing.
I'll put it this way. It was a very low point in my life. It was quite the opposite of Doug in his 1-0 spring training game.
Spring training. Dave Clark.
But anyways,
We
1980.
have to talk about the Pirates now.
do we have to talk about it? I mean, I feel like this is a good conversation, but like I feel like it's good with us. Maybe not so much
Yeah.
for people listening to it.
Right.
I don't know. Apologize, but I mean, maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Pirates. There's some news. Do we have to? I guess we'll do this. We'll talk about the Pirates, but do we have to talk about Brian Reynolds?
Okay, how about this?
I
Is
don't want to
JT
talk about Brian Reynolds.
I
tonight.
don't
gotta be
want to
completely
talk about
honest.
it either. Is JT Brubaker a Pirate at the end of the season?
That's a good question.
Because I've been thinking about this like all week, and I'm like, where is his place on the team right now?
Did you just pretty much yoink Neil's tweet?
Yes. Well, yes. He's just stealing my content now.
Yeah,
Well, I don't look at your Twitter, so
You completely yoinked Neil's tweet.
my bad. Oopsies.
Well,
I
it's-
was probably talking
I'll let
about
you
it in the
shine
other.
here.
Yeah, so I guess I can qualify my tweet, which is basically saying that I think they're going to save our money by trading him and justify signing Velasquez, because a friend of mine pointed this out. I don't know if you guys remembered that Mackey tweet that said that next offseason, Ben Sherrington's going to be able to shop for a different class of free agents. I don't know if anyone saw that.
I did,
remember
yeah.
that.
But basically, it's
I
like,
didn't
yeah,
believe it.
like basically the idea is like, oh yeah, Ben Sherrington will be actually able to sign real free agents for actual years, which also says like, why not just extend Reynolds? But also, we're not talking about him. But my friend said they're probably doing that by clearing all the ARB money off the roster, which might include Brubaker, Keller, and Reynolds. And so I'm like, oh no, Brubaker's not making it to opening day. Like they're going to go with Oviedo and Velasquez, and I can't stand it. I like Brubaker, and I don't understand why we're choosing Velasquez over him.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're making that choice yet. I can still see Brubaker start the rotation. I mean, so much of this stuff sorts itself out with injuries and poor performance. There's a lot of things, but Brubaker, he's not great, but he's been solid. And if he's the fifth guy in the rotation, I don't think he's going to hurt you. He still has room for growth, and I think he could easily move into the bullpen. I think he's going to be here at the end of the season.
I'm intrigued by JT as a bullpen guy. The problem with JT is that he's the exact kind of guy that a team like Pittsburgh would cut for ARB money reasons. He is the exact kind of guy that would be replaceable by some young guy that you don't have to pay ARB money. I mean, or a guy that you could sign for even cheaper. Basically.
Yeah, you could move out Stevenson or Underwood and keep Brubaker.
I would be so happy if we got rid of Underwood. I would never have to see him pitch again in a Pirates uniform. That would be amazing.
I saw him pitch in Atlanta. Up to that point, he had pitched pretty well. I guess he's from Atlanta. His whole family, there was a whole mob of people wearing Underwood jerseys, and he got rocked in that. The one game they had a lead in, I think Zach Thompson started, and he came in and just
They had a lead.
Yeah.
They had a lead and they put Underwood in.
The two games I went to in Pittsburgh this
opener?
year were like the Blue Jays series, and Dwayne Underwood Jr. blew both games wide open back-to-back nights.
I was at the Bryce Wilson 7-inning start game against the Brewers for some reason.
It's the most randomness
All right.
I've ever witnessed on the show.
So I guess like
takes us back on
You got
track.
3 new guys. What do you expect?
to kind of like get back on
How
track. The
coherent
only
can you get?
thing I would say about like Drew Akers, like if his estimate for ARB is only $1.5 million.
Is it really that low?
I mean, he's in his first ARB year, and
Oh,
they make
okay.
nothing,
Yeah, that
and he's
makes
not
sense.
good enough to like command anything big. So I guess I could see him sticking around, but also I could see him being traded for value, so that they can make a rotation spot for Burrows or Priester or who's the other Ortiz when they come up.
That's the other.
Was your point.
Because that's the other part of this conversation that we haven't really touched on yet, is that at some point this season, probably multiple of Priester's, Burrows, and Ortiz are gonna get a shot at the rotation.
Barring injury, I don't think Priester's going to.
Really?
Well, it depends on when the injuries come, and I mean, you have to assume that Keller, Contreras, Rich Hill are in there at least till Hill gets traded at the end of July. I think if someone gets injured early on, you might see Cody Bolton. Depends how effective or ineffective Velasquez is. But I think Ortiz will be the first up out of Ortiz, Burrows, and you still have Oviedo. There's a long way before you get to Priester. And he didn't pitch a full season last year. There's no real reason to rush him. And I know that Pirate fans will all say it's because Bob Nutting is cheap and we're holding him down and all that. But, if things go at all well, there might not be any reason to bring him up until, September, I guess, to see what he can do. But I mean, again, depends on what you do with Brubaker and what their plans are for him. But again, I assume Keller, Contreras, Ortiz, Oviedo, Brubaker, Bolton, Burrows. There's a lot of guys before I think you bring in Quinn Priester.
Yeah, I'll say one thing. I mean, that's one thing that separates this year from last year, right? In 2023, there's certainly some options. And the Pirates brought in some decent enough, like with Rich Hill, he's a decent option. He's a good option, right, to have in the rotation for now and such. Again, with Velasquez, whatever. But something I said last year, and I still feel like it holds pretty true. Two things, really. At the end of the year, if JT Brubaker is still in the rotation, that might be a bad sign. And I look at it for the same reasons, like because you have Mitch Keller, you have Rowanzy, as you just mentioned, right? You probably want to see Ortiz in there, Oviedo. There's the possibility of Priest, like all the guys you just mentioned. So if they're like, I'm with all of you that I like Brubaker, but it's a very, very low ceiling with him. You know, like if those guys can't overtake JT Brubaker, that's what I was alluding to, right? That actually might be a bad thing. But at the same sense, I'm very intrigued with Brubaker as a bullpen pitcher also. I've been intrigued with a bullpen pitcher for some time now. So I think it could be a very natural transition if he's up for it. And that's the thing, too. If he's not up for it and he hates the idea, maybe the Pirates say, well, then fine, I'll grant your wish because we now see we have no use for you. It's these guys, and we can get some depth next year in free agency or whatever. And we will trade you, right? But like I definitely would be very intrigued to see him as a bullpen guy. Lord knows this team could use that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like, I don't really mind him transitioning to the bullpen once our guys are up. For me right now, it just makes no sense why we signed Velasquez to start then. Like, I don't care what this, like, $3 million is not starter money in this league. It may be starter money for the Pirates, but I really don't feel like $3 million should mean that a guy automatically gets the inside track to the rotation.
That's why I don't think he's going to. I would be surprised if Velasquez starts the season as a starter.
But they've advertised him as a starter, and that's what people around the team have been saying is that like he's going to get that starting opportunity. And when Oviedo was a nice surprise last year, pitching down the stretch, even if I don't 100% buy him being an everyday starter, I don't see why he loses his rotation spot.
Yeah, I'd much rather
to Velasquez, who can't start.
I think the reason why Velasquez is here and they advertised him as, we think he has a starter's repertoire is because when they signed Velasquez, we're one of the only teams that's going to give him a real starter's opportunity and give him that $3 million. I think that's why he's here.
I also think there's something to be said. I don't know if they thought they could get Rich Hill or a guy like Rich Hill.
Right. I think that's another thing that in case they couldn't get more guys to pitch innings. Well, here's Velasquez.
Don't you think the Pirates, they misjudged the market? They thought that they were going to be able to get Quintana for 2 years, $20 million maybe, and that's why early on he was saying, "Oh, we're not opposed to signing the guys for 2 years," and then he found out that everybody was going for 12 and 13 million, and that was too rich for his blood, so he signs Velasquez. And then, wow, lo and behold, he's able to get Rich Hill. And so, yeah, I wonder if Velasquez is almost just, I said I'm going to get more starters, so I have to get somebody. And then he got Rich Hill, and it's like, damn it, man, now I'm stuck with Velasquez. I hope that's the case, actually. Right?
I do too. Like, I don't see a good reason when you have 3 guys who are knocking on the MLB ready door in AAA. You have 6 starters going into the year. Why Velasquez even gets a chance?
And everybody forgets him. Cody Bolton. Cody Bolton hurt his knee. He didn't hurt his elbow or his arm. He might be a decent pitcher. He was a decent rated prospect. He pitched pretty well last year at AAA. I would like to see him get some sort of opportunity. He doesn't have to get 6 months, but give the guy, let him start out in the bullpen and be one of the guys that pitches this, the first game of the doubleheader or the spot start here and there. But again, I'd rather see Cody Bolton than Velasquez at this point. I'd rather see Oviedo than Velasquez. So I give him his opportunity. If he wows us, great. But I mean, if not, bullpen, trade, release. I don't need to see a whole lot of Vince Velasquez if he's not pitching very effectively.
Let me present this too, how I look at it. And I kind of agree with you too, right? Like the pitchers were on a run. Pirates weren't getting them. So Vince Velasquez is there. It's $3 million. It's almost, let's also say this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to give them like so much credit. It's not as if they were spending money, but they certainly have spent more than what they have in the past, right?
Absolutely.
So like the $3 million, like you said, isn't starter money. So we have a guy who can start. It's only $3 million, right? So it's like it's cheap, but in the same sense, if he's relegated to a bullpen, it is also just $3 million. Like maybe I can get nutting.
And even bullpen guy money is gotten.
Hembry was 1.5 million last year, right? And he lasted 6 innings or something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm alluding to. You know, like
awesome.
they went and got a Hembry last year for 1.5, and he did nothing. So it's like Velasquez could probably do better than that for $3 million. Like at the very least worth of value, put in the bullpen, give out there $3 million is not bad. But here's what I want to say, like to present this to you. And I'm not saying this is what Sherrington's doing. He hasn't shown me this in the past yet, but maybe there's turning a new leaf. But with these younger guys coming up, like the talent is starting to really be here. He presents true competition. So if you're selling him as we're going to give him every opportunity to start, that means, hey Ortiz, hey Oviedo, like, hey guys, you don't have this job. You better, if you want it, earn it. So there's a guy up there who's a vet who's being told you're a starter. And, this might actually be a true competition come spring training.
Okay. I've never heard it like that. I actually kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I hope, right? But
and that's what I'm like. I hope. I'm not giving him that benefit of the doubt yet.
No, you're right.
That's what I would want this to be.
Yeah. That would be great. That would be great. And he's not effective in spring, and boom, it's Oviedo. But with the Pirates, you have this terrible feeling. His ERA is going to be 15 in the spring. He's going to look terrible in every outing, and he'll be the number 2 starter come start of the season.
I guess to be entirely fair to Sherrington, I think every single year he's had a guy like this where like it was Tyler Anderson first. We're like, oh, this guy kind of sucks. Then it was Quintana, and he has with Oscar Marin managed to turn these guys around into decent to good MLB starters. So, not that I like Velasquez as a signing, but I guess he has earned somewhat of the benefit of the doubt with these shrewd signings. There must be something that he likes in the pitching philosophy that we have. And so, I guess, it's not the end of the world, and I've kind of come to the belief there's no such thing as a bad one-year deal. It's 1 year, and then all the money's off the books. But, I don't know. It looked a lot worse before we had Rich Hill. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
I think the other part to look at is it kind of seems like an overcorrection in our heads, but we have to look back to the last 2 years of the Bryce Wilsons of the world, the Zach Thompsons of the world, all the bullpen starts we got. Starting pitching depth is not a bad thing.
Right.
Having a Vince Velasquez to come fill in when inevitably one of these guys go down or 2 or 3 or one's not effective, it's not a bad thing. I'll take a Vince Velasquez over, like you said, a Jared Eichhoff.
Yeah, having to claim, having it be like late May and somebody gets a forearm strain and they're out for like a month and a half. I mean,
right. Like it seems like a bit,
and having the solution to that being like, oh, well, we'll just claim Jared Eichhoff. Like, Lord, please no.
It wouldn't happen, but at that point, I would prefer just going to Ortiz, who already has MLB experience, but I understand it's probably not going to happen because we need to keep them around for as many years as possible. But no, in that sense, yeah, I agree. It's better than he's
sort
a functional.
Of the key to how happy we're going to be with this signing is how soon he's not a starter. If we Josh Van Meter him and he's still starting in August, even though he's been terrible, then we're going to hate the signing. The signing it's a coin flip at this point. If he makes 4 starts in April and then he gets replaced by Oviedo, we're fine. That's cool. But if he's terrible and he's still playing as long as Yoshi and Van Meter did, you're like, come on now, what's the deal? We've got you're right there, DiNardo. If it could be a bad sign, similar to JT Brubaker. If these young guys can't come up and beat out Vince Velasquez, then we've got bigger problems.
Right. Neil, you got a fan apparently.
I need
Just
to.
so you know.
It's a heavy cross that I bear.
I think the other real quick part of it is we don't really talk about how a lot of these guys are going to be on an innings limit. Roansy will be on an innings limit. Mitch
Probably.
Keller still hasn't really thrown much. JT, God only knows, his arm has died how many times now.
Yeah.
You got all these rookies that are going to come up. They're going to need innings. That's what our whole argument about Quintana being kept around last year is that who the hell is going to pitch for 2 months?
Right.
Yeah, and it became a problem.
Yeah. And I mean, it was also the secondary thing where, like, if you keep Quintana around, you extend him before the market gets crazy, and then you sign Rich Hill, and then this rotation is actually looking pretty sweet going into 2023.
Sweet
Right
by
now,
from where
Hey,
they
they got Malcolm
right now
Nunez.
it's looking like league average.
Hey,
We have 5 warm bodies who can pitch well, decently well throughout an entire MLB season, and that is a vast improvement.
Neil, not to mention, Chris Stratton's still here, and they have another bullpen piece.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
Chris-
upset that
Chris
Chris
Stratton
Stratton's
was
gone.
Still
I-
good.
Yeah, he'd have been traded in a separate deal.
For
Like-
what? Malcolm Nunez?
Yeah.
And I keep seeing Malcolm Nunez hyped up on Twitter all the time, and I
He's
don't
a
see
guy.
it yet. He's a yeah.
Speaking of guys who are just guys, can we talk about Travis Swaggerty? Because this became a very Neil knows this became an extremely heated discussion in another group chat.
Okay.
I've just completely given up. He's nothing to me.
I think the organization's kind of telling you that he's nothing.
The
to them
organization's already told us that they've given up on him. To me,
If my take is this, if you cannot beat out Hoy Park, Diego Castillo, and Cal Mitchell for right field starts on the MLB team, there has to be something wrong.
he can't hit. That's what's wrong.
Like elite defense be damned. Like there has to be something that the organization is not liking to not give him a chance last year with all the terrible players that we saw play right field last year. So
Yeah, considering they loved him at the alternate site, right? He was the guy that surprised the most, impressed the most, and you know, we all thought he was going to be up early last year, and then he gets hurt, and then or the year before, I'm sorry, and then he gets hurt, and you know, he plods along last year, but nothing spectacular. But 9 games or 9 at bats, 5 games, something like that. It was
Yeah, like when he was called up, he didn't really even get a shot then.
yeah,
I mean, he
John
was
Bench is
really
up
there
there.
because
Two
we
games.
can't.
Hey,
We
poor
can't
guy.
have 26
9
players
at
on the
bats,
roster.
like 6 of them against lefties.
yeah.
As a left-handed hitter, it was brutal. Like,
Yeah.
But
I saw his first major league hit. I was at that Braves game. I've seen the bulk of Travis Swaggerty's major league career.
and I don't know if it's like a segue, but I think this guy Chavez Young is kind of the writing on the wall for Swaggerty because he's basically everything Travis Swaggerty does. The guy we got in the Thompson deal from the Blue
Yep.
Jays. He's a guy.
That's actually the point I was going to bring up too. I think so. Not only the fact that he didn't even really get a shot last year, right? All these other guys got a shot, and Swaggerty really didn't at all. The fact that you're seeing Valade and Chavez, like you're seeing these guys being brought in as outfielders, tells me that they're probably not too comfortable with the outfield depth. Which also, I mean, I'm not either. It's not
Yeah.
a bad idea,
Yeah,
but I mean, it's not like they're bringing in good guys either. But I mean, again, like it tells me that they're. I think his days are numbered as a Pirate.
I guess
because
my
if you look
question
at
is-
this current group of outfield prospects that are close to the major league level, the one that I like the most is like Kanan Smith and Jigba. That's not a good sign.
yeah,
I like
solution-
Kanan Smith and Jigba.
The
He's
solution
not
to the
that great of
Pirates
a
outfield.
prospect.
I
But,
say the
like-
solution to the Pirates outfield problem is put Cruz and Endy in the outfield. Whether you trade Reynolds or not, there and then hope Henry Davis and Peguero can play. You know, so
I don't
Doug say
see.
put
I
Cruz in the
don't see a
outfield?
world where you
Well,
keep
Now,
Davis at catcher and
all right,
Well,
fair enough.
what I
You're
will
all
say is,
driving to Alabama right now for that, Jim. What was
Disagree.
we riot.
But like I don't see. Well, why would you move Endy off of catcher when Davis can't play the position?
Well,
Robo-umps.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair.
I don't think. I mean, he can block, he can throw. He doesn't frame that well. Hopefully, that's not going to be an issue too much longer. He wants to be catcher. Endy has said in the past that his favorite position is second base. Endy seems more amenable to moving, and the Pirates do seem to show. Well, I don't know. Sometimes they seem to show, they're player centric, and Cruz is at shortstop because he wants to be at shortstop. But Endy wants to be catcher, and that's gonna be a tough. It's gonna be tough to move him to right field or first base. I think he's not going to be very happy with that. And maybe it doesn't matter because he's not as good a hitter as we think. But if he is the hitter we think,
at the end of the day, if these guys hit, they're going to find a position for them.
Absolutely,
because it's going to be like, okay, you're a major leaguer because you can hit, but it's not going to be where you want to be. It's either that or you're not a major leaguer.
Yeah.
Eventually they're going to realize that they're going to have to learn a new position.
Yeah, but remember, we're the team desperate for players to sign team-friendly deals. And if you're unhappy with your position, you're probably not going to sign a team-friendly deal.
Well, at this point, like if Davis makes the majors, I see him as the long-term first baseman that we haven't had.
I forgot. You're not a big fan. You're not too high on Davis right now.
Until he fixes his swing, no. His swing, I don't know if you guys have watched any of like his stuff from the Arizona League. It's not good. And scouts have been worried about it for a while. He pops, I think he had like a 30% pop-up rate in AA this year. He's not putting good contact on the ball, and so I'm a little worried about him. I'm not going to lie.
I don't know. Like,
and
his swing is ugly. Don't get me wrong. His stance is ugly. His swing is ugly. But he does hit the hell out of a baseball. I don't care about whatever the pop-up rate was. He does make a good bit of hard contact, and numbers are there.
Listen, I mean, it matters to me only because, like, I need him to make hard contact more, because when he does make hard contact, it's great. He doesn't do it enough yet, and so, like, that's what he really needs to be working on in AA this year, because I want to be a Henry Davis believer. Like, I want him to be that guy, that big slugger that we haven't had in a while, but there's so many flaws in his game, and I don't think it's a coincidence he was just rated as the most overrated prospect in baseball.
That was a bit disheartening. I will say that.
Yeah.
But I'm also willing to look at this season like as a mulligan because of the injuries, and especially again like the injury he had. A lot's going to come down on this year for me. Like this year is really going to make me, I think, have a truer understanding of like what Henry Davis is.
Yeah, if he just gets one healthy, if he plays the whole season, right? If he can just play the whole season and be a little above average, I think.
Just let it be known, I take no pleasure in saying what I'm saying. I want him to be that guy, but I think Endy is going to be what we thought Davis is.
So my opinion on Davis for a while has been I kind of comp him to a Kyle Schwarber type. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for. I don't think he sticks a catcher, kind of like Schwarber. He's probably more in that first base role and probably more in line with those numbers at the plate. Not anything that that's gonna pop off the page, but I'd take a Kyle Schwarber right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wonder, like I know a lot of what he's doing in the minors is working on his catching, because that's one of the biggest holes in his game. I wonder if you move him off now, stick him at first base, he can solely focus on his bat, which is his biggest asset, if that makes any sense. Like, I know, like, having catching prospects is worth their weight in gold. Like, if you have a hitting catcher, that is huge. But I'd rather him be a competent major leaguer than a competent major league catcher like that. I don't think that happens.
Do that, though. You know, they remember Cruz was supposed to play some outfield. What did he play? One game. I mean, they seem to, they tell you they value versatility, and then they don't get them any at bats or any innings at other positions. Like Peguero, if Cruz is going to stay at shortstop, shouldn't Peguero be playing somewhere else now, learning that other position?
I think Peguero is a bit of a different circumstance because he really needs to focus on the bat. The
Yeah.
defense is fine. I think he's athletic enough that they could kind of slide him anywhere. The bat really needs to play, and you don't really want to throw a new position on him right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And the good thing about Paguero is he's 20. I think he's going to be 21 this year.
Yeah.
He is really young for the AA level. And I think a lot of it is in his approach. Like, he just doesn't walk, and he swings at way too many breaking balls in the dirt. So, like, pitchers have kind of found a way to pitch around him because the tools are there. Like, if he figures it out, the tools on a Leo Paguero, I kid you not, is like an all-star second baseman. But he's young, and he doesn't walk, and his approach to the plate is really, really bad at the moment. So I agree. Like, he needs to focus on the bat because the bat could make him like a legitimate MLB all-star. I'm not joking when I say that.
Yeah, but if he's your all-star second baseman, where's your boy Nick Gonzalez?
I don't care. Put him at DH.
Figure it out.
I don't think you should worry so
That's
much
a good
about
problem
position.
to have.
Yeah, like I think we talked about this last time, Doug. Where like,
If you can hit, they'll find a position for
yeah,
you.
like if we don't have the luxury of discarding cheap MLB minimum players who can hit, they're going to find a spot, and I'm at peace with it.
Like, the best case scenario of
We
all
just
this, right,
talked
is
about
if they all
having outfield
actually hitting.
problems.
and you have Cruz, you have Peguero, you have Bay, like Nick Gonzalez. Hey, there's a way to find a pitcher. They're trade assets.
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean, I'm on board. I mean, some of these guys are going to have to go. I mean, it's and I'd like to see some of them go and get something good back. Now, not just DFA and then get some random, some other bum. I would love to see him package Nick Gonzalez or Peguero or somebody with Travis Swaggerty and JT Brubaker and get a substantial return, an impact pitcher or something. But some of them have to
Just
start
a regular starter.
Yeah, just an actual major league starter, right? But
I don't know because cheap, controllable starting pitching is the most the most valuable commodity in baseball. I don't know what a package like that gets you outside of a Chris Flexen.
Yeah. Well, if they start hitting, if they actually start hitting, where we're the point where you're like, oh, the bat will play, then maybe you can get something. But right now, none of them have shown enough that they're going to bring anything back in a return.
So I think when we look at the farm, we were in a similar position with Neil Huntington, and of course it was a little bit ahead of the curve there. They were winning at that point, but in Neil Huntington's tenure, he didn't move these prospects. It's going to be interesting to see if Sherrington does part with some of these guys that are quote unquote the future when this next wave hits free agency or gets traded off, and those guys didn't pan out. I'm going to be really interested to see if he moves on from some of these guys a little early rather than sticking around and waiting for a Nick Kingham to blow his arm out or a...
Yeah. And haven't we learned by now that all the prospects don't work out? So you're better off, trading them for a guy that's actually contributing in the major league.
Doug,
level.
what was the year? Like, was it 2000 that the Pirates of the top farm system and they all failed?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There was a span there where they overpaid for 5 high school pitchers, over slot. None of them worked out. Brian Bullington, first overall pick in the draft.
Whatever the Chad Hermanson class was.
Chad Hermanson kills me. He hit 30 home runs 2 years in a row in Nashville. I mean, you're like, they didn't rush him. He's ready. He gets up here. They change his swing in his first day, and he never recovered. It's just like it was supposed to be him. Jose Guillen, Aramis Ramirez. I mean, that for the future was coming. Well, you're going to add that to Giles and Kendall, and it was going to be just great. No. And the pitchers, every one of the pitchers had one good year, and never could. Oliver Perez was lights out for a year, never did anything like that again. Paul Maholm, one good year. Snell, one good year. Yeah, it was just
that half season.
David Williams.
Zach Duke.
Zach Duke came up. What was he like? Won his first 7 starts or whatever.
1.82 ERA or 1.62 ERA.
I don't think Zach Duke ever had one full good year until he went to the bullpen. But I mean, I guess to be fair is that we don't know what this level of prospects and development is going to come because we haven't really seen them in the majors. And the one positive light I would point to are the developments of our 3 best pitchers in AAA, because Ortiz has come out of nowhere. I think he's now like a top 40 prospect in baseball on some sites. Quinn Priester had a lot of concerns leaving A plus ball. He looked great in AA. And Michael Burrows wasn't even close to a top 100 prospect rating when he came on. And now I think he's beat Baseball America's 100th rated prospects. So at the very least, we're seeing strides being made on the pitching side in the minors that can give you some level of, maybe this isn't going as much as I dislike Ben Cherington, he's not Dave Littlefield. No. Dave Littlefield has ruined the Pirates and he ruined the Tigers with his scouting and his development. So it's not entirely fair to give him that comparison, but I understand as Pirates fans where this worry comes from, because it's always the prospects are going to save us and the prospects never save us.
Right. Well, none of our hitting prospects are doing anything close to, what they were advertised as. Nick Gonzalez was supposed to compete for batting titles. He's not competing for batting titles. Henry Davis, part of it's been injury and bad luck and all that, but man, it does not look like. And when you see some of the guys that passed up that are producing from those drafts, it is a little frustrating. You're right. The pitching's coming along nicely, but Mac, we've got Mitch Keller as a cautionary tale. You can look fantastic throughout the minors and then get to the majors and just have no, and it takes a couple of years if you're lucky.
I guess at the very least, what you can say then is that we have enough young pitching that you can start pawning them off for actual hitters. We were talking about trading hitting prospects for pitching. Trade some pitching prospects for hitting, because again, teams will pay up more for pitching prospects, especially if they think they're legit. It's the most valuable thing you can have is a MLB minimum pitcher, pitcher making MLB minimum and with a lights out ERA. So I think that's the one hope you have, and that Termarr Johnson is the all-star shortstop of the future.
Please don't play second.
What I want to say to tie like this in to actually the comment that Tyler said to start this whole off is, like, you talk about the difference between Neil and Ben. And what we've seen from Ben, like when he turned this roster over, was, he just went for a plethora of prospects, So you're hoping the development does what it needs to do and starts developing these players to turn them into something, because you legit are going to have too many players. Like Neil never had a situation where he just had like this plethora of prospects. What am I going to do with all these guys? Right. If things go well, like we just talked about today, where does this guy play? Like there's not a position for him to come up. So these guys turn into assets. So it will be interesting to see like what Ben does, right? If he's going to be trading these people away, because he's going to have to. Like there's too many players than there are positions that we're seeing, as long as they're continuing to develop and becoming true prospects.
Important.
So yeah, but like you said, like I'm definitely intrigued to see like what's going to happen here in the next few years with these young guys.
I guess for me, seeing how unwilling the market is to move for players like Brian Reynolds in terms of prospect value, I don't know how much these, because he went for quantity over quality, I don't know how much these quantity prospects are going to fetch us in trades, and that'd be my only worry.
But like where I'm at is you're gonna be okay parting with like deadline deals. Like they're not top end, but you have a quantity, like this plethora of players. When it comes to trade deadline, this is the piece you need. You're going to be okay trading because you have 10 of these guys that you're okay to part with. So like, Don't think of like the Brian Reynolds. Think about that pitcher at the deadline who has, maybe a half season or even a year and a half left that you can, you have the perfect guy to match up there. And maybe that's how, again, like Pirates can, maybe not top end, right, starters, but like get a good quality starter for a year. Like Quintana, think about a Quintana. Like this team hopefully is going to have a ton of Malcolm Nunez's that they can trade for a Quintana if that's the piece they need to contend for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm kind of, it's hard for me to comprehend us making a trade to contend for the rest of the season. It's, I'm still trying to, do we have talent yet to get there? It's like, sure, I'll give you a Malcolm Nunez for
well, Kenny, the unfortunate thing is you just spelled it out for him in chat. So
Yeah, I think but back to Doug's point, I think we're looking like a year down the line, like 2024.
Yeah.
There are a good bit of guys that the Pirates have been in a 40-man crunch for how many years now?
There's
since
a-
Mike
there's
Shanahan
a-
took over.
There's a roster overhaul happening right now, and it's going to keep happening.
Yeah.
It has to. I mean, it has to. Like I said, there's too many Cal Mitchells, Cannon Smith and Jigba, Matt Frazier, Travis Swaggerty type. I mean, somebody's got to go at some point.
Did we really waste a 40-man spot on Matt Frazier?
Did we?
No.
I
He
think
didn't
God.
project- No, he didn't project it.
No, he didn't have to be put on till this year, and then there was no reason to put him on this year.
Yeah.
Right.
Last year, there was all sorts of talk about next year. Matt Frazier will have to be on there.
I mean,
Swaggerty, though, yes.
maybe Blake Sabol will be like the person of our nightmares when he hits in San Francisco this year.
Let's hope not. I don't want to get to that again. But let's do this. Let's pivot. Let's transition because I mean this was fun. We're talking some Pirates baseball, but maybe get into some actual news that's happening around the league concerning the Pirates as well. So we understand that January 15th, the Pirates might be signing a top pitcher from Korea. So number 10 prospect, according to MLB Pipeline, Shim Jung. Okay, so Kenny, I can spell it, but I'm not going to be able to pronounce this one. So Shim Jun Seok. I'll say that. If you guys know how it's pronounced, let me know. But yeah, like the writing's on the wall. It seems like that's almost a done deal. Pirates are going to sign him. What are your thoughts on this?
I haven't seen any video of him pitch, but I have told that he throws really hard and has decent control to go with it.
He's got a nice. I've seen a few, and he's got nice, easy, repeatable motion. He's 18. This isn't signing a 16-year-old kid and hoping that he's 6'4". He's got weight on him. He's a guy that can move up quickly. We're not throwing him in the Dominican League and forget about him, and then, oh yeah, Tony Blanco, that's great. He just turned 19. No, this kid. They compare him to Chan-Ho Park. I'd love to have a prime Chan-Ho Park in our rotation. Yeah, he looks good. I mean, I love the signing. I remember hearing that we were the favorite to get Miguel Sano. So after it's signed,
Which year
Why
was
do you
Chan-Ho
always
Park a
make us
Pirate? Is
down
that
these
2010?
roads, Doug?
Doug is
that
just
2010?
Doug is just a Trevor Trove of like 40 years of bad Pirates memories.
Doug, let's just talk about Luis Heredia while we're at it.
yeah.
Chan-Ho Park was a
that's
Pirate
right.
in 2010.
Yeah, he was going to be great.
I will say I've been fighting the good fight.
He got
this
the money
guy.
and went crazy.
Sorry. I've been fighting the good fight for this guy on Twitter. I think this is a great signing, a very underrated one. I think we got him for like under $1 million. I don't like to trust Cody Duncan, but he's the only guy who's reporting on this. Hi, Cody. I know you're listening.
Did we just?
I love it. I guess like he has a 100-mile-per-hour fastball that
Tyler.
sits there.
DiNardo, can you kick Neil?
Yeah,
He just
got
forced
voted off
Cody
for saying
Duncan.
Move Cruz to the outfield. Last year at this time, we all thought he'd be an outfielder by now.
Thank you.
That's better. All right.
Oh God.
That's
Can I flame
in
Cody for
timeout.
making fun of Ethan?
What
in
was this
timeout.
about? This is baseball's life. Well, I don't know, man. I don't know about the comment anymore.
Oh,
And
he gets moved to the bottom.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm getting promoted. Come on, let's go. Oh, okay,
Nope,
Doug
Doug
getting
does.
promoted. Yeah, okay.
All right.
I'll make my way back up.
No. Doug got booted already too. He
Yeah,
All right,
that's
fair.
true.
corners up top.
All right. Well, that's okay. But no, I do love the signing because like he has, I mentioned control, but he has the stuff. Like he has two really good breaking pitches, and I think he's a guy that we're like even if he never figures it out as a starter, you have very cheaply signed someone I feel like who can be an electric bullpen piece for a good long while. And you don't ever want that of your pitching prospects, but I will say like I like this better than whoever the heck we signed last year and we were all hyped about. What was his name?
Polanco.
I don't know. Ask Cody Duncan.
Shaolin Polanco.
Okay, Polanco. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this guy is a much better signing than Shaolin, And
Okay.
I'm a huge fan, even though there's a 20% chance his arm blows by the time he's 20 years old.
Shaolin was the outfielder, right?
Right. Yeah. He's fielder. I think that was 2 years, maybe even 3.
Was that really that long ago?
No, I thought it was last year. Was he the one that was like? Who was the other one? That
Tony
was like,
Blanco was last year. Tony Blanco, 40.
He's the one that's like 6'5".
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
real big kid.
We got
Yeah,
Polanco.
6'5", 330.
We got Polanco in 2021.
You're right, Polanco. Geez, time is killing.
He has yet to have a WRC plus over 100 in the complex.
Shaolin or Tony Blanco?
A Shaolin. Tony Blanco.
Now Polanco has been
was last
looked
year.
at as a breakout player this year by some.
I think that was
Shaolin,
pipeline.
I've heard that too.
I mean-
Hudson Head. This is their year.
It's hard to
Oh,
really
don't get me
say.
started on Hudson Head. I don't want to.
It's really hard to say anything about Tony Blanco Jr. because he's had 19 total plate appearances his entire career, and he's 17 years old.
Oh, he's Lonnie White. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. But I think you said it. Like he's way further ahead than these guys are.
Right. Yeah.
And so
he's
there's
not a
actual
normal
tangible
international
reasons to
prospect.
be excited about a signing like this.
What's
Yeah.
his
Yeah,
delivery
I
look
like it too.
high school. Right. Not junior high school as they do.
What's his delivery look like? Does it look like a typical like Korean windup? Because
No, not from what I saw. I mean, I saw something from his.
Did not get down the rabbit hole yet, but the Korean windup drives me crazy. I don't want to watch that.
I actually refused to play as the Dodgers in MVP Baseball 2004 because they had Park, I think his name was. And he had the worst windup in the world to play with. You hated facing him, you hated pitching with him. It was so I get it.
I hate it. Like Dice K, couldn't stand him.
No,
Brutal
I mean,
to watch.
to add to that,
So
though,
Lametta-
I did like the signing. I mean, I like my international. But anyways,
And that
It's a
is an area
pitcher.
where the Pirates historically spend every single dollar they can, constantly.
yeah. I mean, that's true. It seems that they're really, I'm not going to say pioneering, but they're definitely expanding and looking much into the Asian market. I mean, you saw the pitcher
Yeah,
last
that is
year as
something
well.
they've been doing that for a while.
It seems like they're really, really investing over there. But like looking at him, and he was going to be the number one pick in the KBO. Like there is definitely some pedigree there in that sense. But right, like he's 6'5", 215, he's 18, already hitting 100. The talks of him, he has 2 potential plus pitches, 2 others that are probably average 2 plus. I mean, there's a potential he has 4 plus pitches. It's a prospect, right? But as prospects go, I mean, that's everything I like in a pitching prospect. Like, what's there to hate? So,
Yeah, like I saw people
that
getting
means-
mad
and
about
his
the move.
age
I'm
means
like, I
we
don't
could-
get it. Like I don't get it. It's a good signing. He might not be anything, but it's the type of moves we need to be making.
Absolutely.
And his age means that it's possible that we see him at some point in some level of organized play this year. It's not like a Shaolin Polanco where it's like, well, I guess we'll wait 3 years to see if he still exists or if he, went to
Right.
college with that money or something.
He could end up in Bradenton toward the end of the season.
Yep.
That's.
I mean, you're looking at him almost like a draftee.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think the other part of it's kind of a move away from the typical Sherrington move for these younger pitchers. He seems to be more focused on pitchability and the stuff, and well, maybe not stuff, but we haven't seen the high-powered arms. We don't see the high 90s getting picked up at a young age, even in drafts. So
Yeah,
I always
searching
like.
mind
I
data
love
banks.
getting
I
dudes that
think
throw
that sounds
upper
right.
90s. Don't care.
Yeah.
Give me all the guys that throw in the upper 90s.
That was
We'll
my
figure it out
favorite
from
thing
there.
about Huntington. His first pick, Rule 5, his first, I think, Pirate transaction was a Rule 5 pick, Evan Meek. And I'm like, thank God we got a guy that can hit, 100 miles an hour. Littlefield, every pitcher he took was a poor man's Greg Maddux.
Yeah.
They were really poor.
But I think we saw a lot of that from Sherrington in the draft last year, too. With
Yeah.
the get out of Campbell. Can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Harrington.
Yeah, Harrington, he's lower 90s. We've seen a lot of it out of the pitchers he's acquired.
Yeah.
Even in the major league bullpen, we haven't seen guys that really throw hard.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just
in
been
the starting
guys.
pitch he's acquired, he likes Bryce Wilson's, he likes Zach Thompson's
Right.
of the world,
Right.
who
Yeah.
sit low 90s and have like a cutter.
Like if he could have 5 Trevor Williams, he would be thrilled.
Right.
Yeah, I've said for 2 years now that he should hire Neil Huntington as a bullpen consultant. Huntington always had a good bullpen. Even when his team stunk, he had a good bullpen, and he had a great bullpen when the teams were good. And it doesn't seem like Ben has he just gets a bunch of soft tossing dudes and hopes for the best. It doesn't make any, and then overuses them. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's why I may have disliked like the deadline trade so much, because I think I'm so spoiled by Huntington just being able to find random dudes off the waiver wire or like through like DFA trades like Jason Grilly and Joel Hanrahan. And so to see us sacrificing real MLB talent that played with like Vogelbach and Quintana for bullpen arms drove me up a wall a little bit.
Oh my God, you're speaking my language.
Exactly, because even if you think that those were fair value trades, it wasn't the right, in my opinion, it wasn't the right direction to take those trades in the first place. Trading Vogelbach for a bullpen guy, even if I think it would be an adequate trade if you were trading Vogelbach for a bullpen guy. Why are you trading Vogelbach for a bullpen guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think Quintana was a lot worse, but at the very least, you can kind of squint and see Oviedo as a start, like a number 4 or 5 starter on a contending team, but he has to figure the control out. And I remember watching him pitch, like he got outs, but like he could not go deep into games, and I think that's a legitimate concern. Like that, you flip the best pitcher we've had since Jamison Tyon into a bullpen guy. It just, I don't know.
Because the Cardinals already decided, a better team than the Pirates already decided that Oviedo was a bullpen guy.
And they need
on a Cardinals roster where pitching is isn't really all that great. Like their best pitcher next year, I think, is going to be Jordan Montgomery, who's good, but like nowhere close.
They don't have like a ridiculous amount of starting depth or anything. They just decided that Oviedo was more useful out of the bullpen than he was as a starter.
Now, I may say that like the Cardinals haven't been really good at developing pitchers recently. Like Matthew Liberatore looks miserable. And no one, I guess you have Grace Effo coming up, but like they really haven't been like producing guys since like Mikolas and Flattery. And that's been several years, and they don't really have anyone like it. So, I mean, maybe Sherrington sees something in that with the pitching development that he's been successful in, that he can turn Oviedo into a starter. But that's the only way I'll be okay with the Quintana trade long-term is if Oviedo is a starter.
Yeah. I don't see Nunez contributing much. If Oviedo's a starter, and that's a good trade. But like I said, if it's another bullpen arm, again, where most of your teams, you're finding bullpen arms off the scrap. They're easy to find, or they were until Sherrington got here, and now he can't find any of them. And our pitching staff, like I said, limited innings. We're going to need the bullpen to be good, and we're probably going to have to run through quite a few guys to make sure it is good, because we're gonna be blowing guys' arms out quickly, early and often.
That goes back to my point about signing the kid out of Korea that throws 100. These are moves that need to be made so that you don't have to trade a Dan Vogelbach for a bullpen arm, because you have nothing, and you don't have to pick up a Tyler Beatty or a Robert Stevenson or whatever the hell else we went through last year. I can't even remember all their names.
It's a hodgepodge of nothingness.
That's
I'm kind of a Stevenson believer, but
Johan Ramirez is still on the roster, isn't he?
Yeah, or a Benuelos or a
Manny Benuelos is
whatever.
Benuelos got DFA'd though, right?
Yep.
Lots of guys got DFA'd.
I think Benuelos. I think he's over in Japan or the KBO.
Yeah,
or the other lefty.
Because Tyler Bede's in Japan.
Yeah, Tyler. So Walter's moving to Japan.
Walter Bede's gonna have to learn a new language to harass people on Twitter now.
Oh man, I can't believe Clay Holmes went to Japan.
Right.
I guess speaking of trades, what do we think of the Zach Thompson trade for what's his name? Chavez Young.
Yeah.
He was getting Kevin Pillar comps with his defensive ability.
We've already gone an hour. Do we have to fill time like this?
They got a body.
We don't have to fill time, but we can talk about it. I mean, it was the latest.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just
I don't know.
it's whatever. Zach Thompson. I'm not gonna say good enough, but
It's a
teams
DFA
just need
trade.
innings.
I don't care.
And after you saw that the Brewers were willing to trade somebody for Bryce Wilson, you just knew a Zach Thompson trade was going to happen. So this was the trade that happened. Whatever. It's just depth. I mean, I want him more than Aid, but again, like the bar is not too high. So he's just whatever. He's just depth.
When you're
do
Toronto,
you guys want to
what
watch
is that
DiNardo get
Thompson
fired
out
up?
there? And Toronto's going to score runs. They don't need Zach Thompson to hold the team to one run. Toronto's going to put up 9 if Zach Thompson can give them 3 decent innings. They're okay with it.
I mean,
I just hate that we're at the point that we got a Chavis Young for Jacob Stallings. Nardo, what do you think about that?
Connor Scott to the rescue.
That
Oh,
definitely
boy, this is
that
my
definitely makes
time.
that makes me seem like a lot worse. I guess the only thing I would say is that I don't mind moves toward elite defensive guys, especially if you're getting Kevin Pillar stuff, because
Wait. You are the Mr. We can play. If they hit, they can play. Who cares where?
yes, because
I'm talking about defense. And
you can teach second basemen and shortstops how to be competent enough corner outfield or first baseman where defense matters the least. But you'll notice a trend around the league where moves like the Blue Jays trading for Dalton Varsho, who is an elite center fielder. They shipped off Teoscar Hernandez, or the Yankees employing Josh Donaldson and IFK on their left side of the infield. There is in Harrison Bader in center. There is a move toward trying to balance out your roster with elite defensive players, and maybe the bat's not all there. And if you look at a team like the Baltimore Orioles of the 2020s, and we talked about this kind of last week on the show, is that something that they did really well was play really good defense. And there's something if we haven't seen over the past 4 years is good defense. If I have to watch someone like Hoy Park play right field, I'm going to lose my mind. So I'm okay with this in the sense that I think moving toward competent defense is always good, especially since the bats we have here already are pretty comparable, especially for the outfield position.
I think that's an interesting point, though, by Neil, because the Guardians last year are another team that nothing they did was special. They just pitched well enough and played really good fundamental baseball and really good defense. And you mentioned the Orioles and set that strength.
Contrary to that, the Phillies did the exact opposite, and they were just like, we're just going to hit.
Well, to be fair, the Phillies also traded a top 50 prospect for Brandon Marsh at the trade deadline to solidify the center field defense. So even they kind of saw the idea of we need some defense if we're going to be actual competitors here.
All right. So Swaggerty's starting opening day then.
Swaggerty does fall now. Like, he is gifted defensively.
He is.
Yeah.
I do think it's kind of like an Anthony Alford type of deal. I don't really want to see much of him.
Right.
But there is I think there's a point to be made that Brian Reynolds sooner or later is going to need to be moved off that center field spot.
Yeah.
His defense last year was really bad.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It wasn't even just like a statistic thing where like the year before there were some statistical things that didn't look quite right. I mean, last year we saw him misplay some balls. I mean, visually he didn't look great out there.
I guess my thing about judging Reynolds' defense last year is that, I think definitely he was a step down, but when you're playing half your games with Diego Castillo in right field, or like not actual major league center field outfielders next to you, I feel like that has to have an impact on your on your defense that the stats just can't account for. At least not defensive stats that we have yet. That'd be my 2 cents. But no, I mean, the problem with that, I think the problem with moving Reynolds off center is I think playing left field in PNC is harder than playing center field. So where do you move him? Do you move him to right field where Jack Suwinski is?
That's only half your game, so
yeah.
At some point,
Suwinski's a good. I mean, I wouldn't have any problem with Suwinski playing left field if he can hit. And I'm not sure that he can hit.
And I will say that Suwinski was better defensively than I think anybody expected him to be.
Yeah, he was.
He was better
than I expected.
I don't think he was graded out as like some awful, atrocious like defender. Like
graded positively.
He was
good, right.
I don't think he was ever considered to be a bad defender, but when he actually got here, he played good defense. I mean, it wasn't just competent.
What I wanted to say, like, to expand upon what Neil was saying as well, like, to me, everything just comes down to roster construction. So, like, I get the defense is like his calling card, and also like what Tyler said, there's not a whole lot of like center fielders in this organization. You know, like if Ryan Reynolds does move off or he gets traded or whatever, who's next? We're hoping Bay's that guy, maybe, maybe not, but like after that, it's who? It's the guy that we feel like is not going to have a career in Pittsburgh, you know?
Mhm.
So, like, at least what he does, he presents, you know, that the defense we talk about. But I don't know if that's really the play. So, like, the way I'm putting this is that's what Brian Hayes is. You know, like he already is that guy, like, with the Pirates. You know, and he's their third baseman. Like, I don't know if they can afford too many more of those type of guys because you can hide a Brian Hayes in a good lineup. Like the Yankees, they can hide Harrison Bailey. Like they can hide those guys in the lineup. I mean, they have Aaron Judge who accounts for about 3 people, right? So like they can do that. To Tyler's point though, like the Guardians, that was a good offense though still. Like they didn't have Thunder in their lineup, but they didn't strike out at all. I mean, they had their contact skills out the ass. Like it was still a good lineup, you know. It's like that's where Miles Straw was like, able to be hidden in that lineup because he has great defense in center field, you know. So I don't know if like the play is to hope that he hits and he's in your center field because you got to hide him, you got to hide Austin Hedges, you have to hide Brian Hayes.
Right.
So like it makes sense maybe on another team, but not so much right now for the Pirates. Unfortunately, because that's what Brian Hayes kind of is to this point.
Right. Well,
yeah. So like, in terms of for things to go right, like you need Brian Hayes to become like a slightly above league average hitter. Like that needs to happen. I guess like when your Yankees example, they have 3 kind of like not good offensive players in that lineup. They have Josh Donaldson anchoring third. He's a good defensive third baseman. They have IFK, who man shortstop can't hit, and they have who's their catcher? Trevino. Their catcher also can't hit, but he's also a really good defender. And so you can kind of parallel all of that to the Pirates. Now you have Brian Reynolds. You'll have Endy coming up. You'll have O'Neal Cruz. Now, I'm not saying the Pirates are anywhere close to the Yankees in terms of talent. Like I'm not going to say that, but like I feel like defense will end up winning the more games when you have a lineup full of actual competent fielders, which I think we actually have this year. You know, you're not playing Yoshi at first base. You're not playing Michael Perez behind the plate. You're not playing Diego Castillo and right. You have actual good defenders, and I'm okay with that trend, even if it means the bats aren't going to be as good, because I still think the lineup is better than it was last year. I mean, just look at last year's opening day roster. Or his lineup.
Don't make me.
It was horrendous. So Cole Tucker was playing right field, and Hoyt Park was playing second base.
Was he?
Right.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
I forgot about the
Park
Cole
just
Tucker
stepped
right field days. Wow.
So like, I'm
Screw
okay.
you. You made me
I am
remember
I
that.
am generally
I hate
okay
you.
with this. If you're banking on, if you think that you've got some stars to come supplement the lineup, so it's a very.
That's fair.
I'm curious to see if I should save this for another day or to get into this today. I know this is Derek Shelton's last year under contract. What about the other coaches? Or is it the same situation for them that they are not under contract beyond this season?
Not a clue.
I don't have a lot of information on.
Neil, why don't you text Cody Duncan and find out?
I got you.
Technically speaking, I think we're all assuming as well, because I could be wrong, but I think we're assuming it's a 4-year deal. It wasn't actually like put out there, right?
Well, I read something somewhere that this is Shelton's last year under contract. Hold on, I feel like this has to be information somewhere.
The only thing I can find on Oscar Marin is that he signed a 1 year. He signed on in 2019, but in terms of contracts, you're right that Shelton's in his last year, and I also think Ben Sherrington signed a 4-year contract. So I think Ben Sherrington's technically in the last year of his deal too, but I don't see a world where he's
Yeah, I
getting
don't see a world
gone.
where he's.
All right, yeah. Shelton's 4-year. It runs through 23.
Okay, so it is through the end of this season. So that brings up an interesting question: is he actually the guy that they want long term?
I don't think anyone has the answer to that.
No,
It's hard to tell.
I mean, I'm also of the opinion that managers, unless the only job of a manager is to make the clubhouse vibes good. Besides that, you really don't have that much effect on winning games. But you have to give Shelton some sort of actual baseball team before you can really judge him.
Right.
Like there are people on Twitter named like Fire Derek Shelton or like Derek Shelton.
Yeah, like Derek
Like,
Shelton's really
what
the
is he
problem with
supposed
this
to do?
team.
Like, is he supposed to like
Did my
make
camera
rainbows
freeze?
fly out of his ass? Like, I don't get what he's supposed to do with this roster. And maybe I just don't see it, but I think Shelton's fine.
Didn't you feel that Charrington was setting the lineups and telling him? I felt like Charrington was in his ear the whole game. Yeah, run Underwood out there for a second inning. I don't know how much autonomy Shelton had with these teams that he's had. 2 years ago when the defense was good and we're didn't make a lot of errors and all that sort of stuff, I thought, well, they play hard, but of course they play hard. Every one of these guys is auditioning for his next team. But he, like I said, he had them fundamentally sound. Now last year was just awful. And some, like I said, some of his pitching decisions, some of his lineups, but I just can't believe that he'd run, Van Meter and Yoshi out there that much. I just, they say the lineups, they're done a month in advance. I think they're done by Charrington. A couple
giving
of
you Shane like 2 straight weeks of starts.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot him.
Yeah, I'm mixed on it. I'll say this: I agree 100% with you, Neil, in the sense of like I feel what's most important for a manager is like that clubhouse dude, that like
because that's kind of what Hurdle was looking. Yeah, exactly. Looking back on it, because Hurdle wasn't. I don't think anybody would. I would not have described Hurdle as like a great game manager making great game decisions, but it wasn't what that team needed.
He was a great communicator, and he was able to get that clubhouse together and like all that type of stuff. To me is like what I want the best, like what I want my manager to be. That's what to me is most important. So like with that said, I feel like the traits that Shelton has lead towards what I feel is most important. Like what he lacks in, I think is less important, which is like the in-game stuff. But in the same sense, he hasn't been given like a true opportunity to show what he has. Yeah. But think about this too. Like you can see it. I mean, Terry Francona outmanaged the hell. I keep talking about this, right? The hell out of Joe Madden in that World Series, and he lost.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And I guess.
But I do fear when that matters, right? Like if the Pirates get good and like these decisions really start to matter because they're hopefully in a playoff position, that's what worries me about Shelton.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair concern. But like going back to the Hurdle thing, and this is kind of like cemented my belief about managers. Like I just don't know how much control they have over that. Like I think they're given like a general outlook of like what they're supposed to do, and then but because I don't know if you guys remember back in 2018 when Trevor Williams was on his like legendary run, like looking like a Cy Young candidate, and I remember we had just gone over 500, and it was this pivotal Giants series where like we'd establish ourselves as a wild card team, and they sit Trevor Williams for a start. And I remember like the fan base I was around went like crazy, yelling at Hurdle, like fire Hurdle, all that stuff. And then it comes out that it was a front office scheduled rest. And so I just don't know if like Derek Shelton is ever going to have enough influence on a team to like really affect anything in the playoffs, if that makes any sense, because that's just not what managers do anymore.
Right.
No,
yeah.
Can I just say I absolutely hate the way baseball has gone. Let the manager manage.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that the GM and the front office has so much say in everything that happens. That's how you become a bad baseball team, when you have one voice from the top and that's all you got. Nobody has any say on anything except for that one guy in charge.
Yeah. If you're dumb, smart people. If you're smart, hire smart people that disagree with you, and that's you need.
All they did was hire a CEO and then a bunch of middle managers.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Shelton's definitely a yes man.
Oh yeah.
And
Something
that is his. I think that's the worst thing about him.
Well, I mean, he doesn't get tossed when Reynolds gets tossed. That's as much as I need to know.
Yeah,
about
that
him.
was. I was about to bring this up that he does not protect his players, and that pisses me off. The
Right.
shit with Cam View, was it Cam View that he just left
Yes.
Cam View out there for
51
50
pitches.
for 51 pitches? And I'm not gonna like sit here and gonna stump. Oh, he ruined a bright young future of Cam View, but leaving Cam View out there is pretty shitty to Cam View. I don't know how you can like call yourself a players manager leaving a guy out there for 50 pitches in that situation.
Well, to be fair, that's actually one of the things that situation actually like made me more endeared to Shelton. Like when he actually came out to the media the next day, like apologized, said like he couldn't sleep all night because of it, like something that like he really regretted. And it's like I feel like there's like actually like that player side where like yeah he will go to bat for his players and like take fault. He just doesn't see the value in getting kicked out of games for whatever reason, and I guess like he doesn't see that as a good managerial tactic, I guess. But I still think he's a players manager. He's just not a conventional players manager, at least in my eyes. Like he's not like the Lou Piniella or where I'm going to go out and like cause a scene type of guy. And
Certainly
Yeah.
not that guy.
No, he's not gonna Lloyd McClendon first base anytime soon.
I'm on a Sunday though. They
Happy
didn't start
64th.
on a Sunday home game. They didn't
Yeah,
start
recently
Reynolds
his
or
birthday.
Hayes. And after the game, he was asked like, "Hey, do you think for a home game maybe you should at least start?" He's like, I never thought of that." And I'm like, I mean, and again, I don't know that that was even his decision, but it just showed me that him and the entire organization has no concern, for the fans selling tickets, optics and all. They're just
No, that they don't care
They're in
about
their
that
little
right now.
bubble. They're
Not
in their
at all.
little lab
Well,
doing their thing, and
we could go on a 30-minute
I mean,
discussion about the
can I
front
bring up
office,
Pirate
like
Fest?
their disregard of the fan base, but I think we're already like pretty
Yeah.
deep in.
Yeah.
I'll just to tie up my point in the neat notice if that he doesn't win close to 75 games this year, I'm out. You got to win about 75 this year.
I agree with that. Yeah, I mean they're due.
You got to win at least 70. I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, what would be a big vote of confidence for me from this front office is saying screw the service time. Don't worry about 2033. Who cares? And let's start winning some baseball games and building that winning culture, because I feel like that's more important than worrying about making sure Andy Rodriguez is on this team in 2029. But
Such a
just an interest, like an interest in winning would mean so much.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go 30 minutes that we just talked about, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut right now.
It'd be
Because a lot of that ties into my
Like all
feelings
the-
about the whole Brian Reynolds situation. So
Yeah,
It's
no.
January 11th. We have plenty of time.
How many days till spring training games start? 38?
I
Probably.
think it's less than a month until catchers and pitchers report, right?
Because that's February.
usually like 14th ish.
Yeah, 14.
Yeah, right around Valentine's Day.
I'll be watching Henry Davis highlight tapes to fill my sorrows.
Can't wait. Well, it's an hour 20 in. There was 5 of us. I think it was a pretty good show for like the very first time. Only a few talking over. After like the first 5 minutes, I think the awkward pauses stopped. So good job.
Once you get past the area code talk, things picked up a little.
Yeah. So I guess before we go, any last words? Anything you guys want to get off your chest? Keep it down under 30 minutes though.
You had to do it, DiNardo.
Take that as a no.
I'm good. I think we've covered it.
Unless you want me to start ranting about
Austin.
Ryan Reynolds, I'm okay, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm looking for like a sentence. You know, say, hey, thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for this. Thanks, whatever,
Like, you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Really a privilege to be on with you guys.
Fuck you.
I'll shout out my fan
Best
base.
day of my life.
I'll shout out my fan base in the chat. It's appreciated to keep it
Yeah,
coming.
why did you bring your like groupies in here, Serge?
I did
That's
not do a
weird.
thing. People just listen. I'm just
Hey.
naturally agreeable. Okay.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I've seen the
There's
raise it.
one of the groupies. Bring that back up.
I'll have a little sign like for baseball.
I've seen
with
some
lights
of the
in
raise it
background.
group chat messages. Agreeable is a strong word.
Which one of those was Cody Duncan's burner?
You're welcome, Cody.
Oh yeah, no, I wanted to. That's what I did want to say. Cody was being mean to Ethan on Twitter. Screw you, Cody.
Oh yeah, that was messed up. Ethan's really nice.
That was uncalled for, Cody. Screw you.
Well, with that said, then we'll get out of here. But appreciate you all coming on. A lot of cool things coming. Not only just expanding and adding these 3, but next week we got the Fort on. So next Monday, tune in.
Ooh.
We'll have McHenry on with us talking some Pirates baseball. Keep on the lookout. We're going to have a newsletter coming as well, starting Kenny. When's the newsletter? I think about end of January, middle of February, that will really get kicked off. But yeah, so keep in touch.
All right. See you guys in about April. I don't know. Whenever we decide, you guys have to do all the post game shows.
Just
Sounds
the
good.
Only the bad ones.
Okay.
Well, that doesn't narrow it down.
No,
No,
we'll have
it
you guys
doesn't
back
quite.
on here and there.
Yeah.
Whenever you
All
want
right.
to talk
Man.
about Charrington for 30 minutes. But yeah. So we'll get out of here.
Peace.
Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the show, like, comment, do all the good stuff. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Don't follow me.
Don't follow Connor.
No,
Really don't.
don't. It's not worth it.
You're gonna hit
That
the
was
button,
the
DiNardo.
wrong button. That was the wrong button.